Hi everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Tonight I'm going to be doing another video as part of my NRL Rivalry series. Recently I've been debunking rivalries, that's Fox League and Fox Sports and some other news corporations have come up with and coined it as a rivalry, and I've come out and said, hang on a moment, let's look at this and see whether it is or it isn't a rivalry. And I've done quite a few. I've done Canberra against Melbourne, I've done Penrith and Sydney Roosters, and also Penrith against Canberra, and them three videos and like the others have all got good responses, so I thought I'd continue with another one. And tonight the video is going to be titled, Are the Parramatta Eels and Brisbane Broncos Rivals? The reason for doing this video is before Parramatta and Brisbane's last match in the NRL, I was alerted to something that Sam Revel, a good friend of the channel and a good friend of mine, tagged me in. It was something that Jess Yates, who works for Fox Sports, said before the Parramatta and Brisbane game, and she said that Parramatta and Brisbane are fierce rivals. They've had some very bitter games in the past. They both hate each other, and they're two of the most well-known teams in sport. And I just had to think about that for a moment, and Sam said to me, I can't believe she actually said something like that. And I went, well, I can't believe she would say something like that either. So I promised that I would do a video on it, and we're going to delve deeper into this, are the Brisbane Broncos and Parramatta Eels rivals, because it's the first I've heard of it, to be fair. So looking at the head-to-head between Parramatta and Brisbane, there's been 62 matches played since Brisbane come into the competition in 1988. Parramatta's won 27, Brisbane's won 34, and there's been one draw. So this head-to-head slightly goes to Brisbane, and it's been traditionally a fixture where it's been quite close in some seasons and other seasons it hasn't. The first match between Brisbane and Parramatta occurred on the 3rd of April 1988. Brisbane beat Parramatta 24 points to 16 in front of 23,202 people at the old Lang Park. Looking back over the last 34 years that Brisbane's been in the competition and has been playing against Parramatta, there has been some memorable matches in the regular season of the competitions in years gone by. And I think the first one occurred in 1993. It was Brisbane's first ever match at the brand new Queen Elizabeth II Stadium, or as it was known, QE2. And they played against a Parramatta side who were at that stage not very good. And the side that they travelled up to Brisbane with was a very weakened side. There was a lot of players that you probably wouldn't know of, or they weren't household names. And they're up against a Brisbane side who were reigning premiers from the year before. And we all know the Brisbane team back then. They had pretty much the Queensland and Australian team as well. So they had a very good side back in those days. And Parramatta were meant to be the sacrificial lambs for that game. And Parramatta beat them 12 points to 8 in front of 51,517 people, which was the highest attended game at that time for a Brisbane Rugby League match. Some other memorable games. This is probably not one for Parramatta fans out there, but in 1995, on the 25th of June, Brisbane beat Parramatta 60 points to 14 at Parramatta Stadium. Brisbane ran riot that day. In 2007, Parramatta in the last round of the regular season beat Brisbane 68 points to 22. I remember watching that game. Tim Smith were on fire. Chris Ninu got 3 tries, and it meant that Parramatta finished in 5th place on the table. On the 30th of May 2008, this is a moment that gets replayed over and over and over again. It was down to the final seconds of the game. The siren went off in the background. The ball went to Darren Lockyer, and he put a kick across the field, and it landed perfectly for Dylan Kemp, and he ran away and scored the winning try for Brisbane to win the match 30 points to 26. And it's always replayed at least once or twice a year, or maybe more, but it's certainly a memorable moment for Brisbane, but not such a memorable moment for Parramatta. And in August of 2017, Parramatta beat Brisbane 52 points to 34 at Suncorp Stadium. Semi Radradra got 4 tries. He was absolutely on fire that night. And Kirisomi Arva scored the fastest ever try in NRL history. I think he scored after about 7 or 8 seconds. Brisbane knocked the ball on from the kickoff, and Arthur pounced on the ball and scored a try. Looking at the finals matches between the two sides have played in 5 finals matches since 1988, and it's Parramatta 3-2 winning that ledger. The first time that these two sides met was in the 1998 major semi. It was played up at the Queen Elizabeth II Stadium. Parramatta finished 4th that year, and they beat Brisbane 15 points to 10. So when people talk about Brisbane in 1998, people go, oh, they were unstoppable. They were this immovable object. Nobody could beat them. They were the best team hands down all year. But everyone forgets that in the second week of the finals, Parramatta went up there and outclassed them. They won 15 points to 10. And I think because Parramatta didn't win the premiership that year or make the grand final, it's hardly ever talked about in the papers. 2 years later, the two sides met in the 2000 preliminary final. Brisbane won that 16 points to 10 against, I remember at the time they were coined the Baby Eels. In 2001, Parramatta finally won a preliminary final. They'd reached the previous 3, and they beat Brisbane 24 points to 16 to book their place in the 2001 NRL Grand Final. And then the following year, 2002, Brisbane got their revenge. They beat Parramatta 24 points to 14 in the qualifying final and knocked Parramatta out in the process. Parramatta finished 6th that year after being dominant in 2001, and they only won 3 out of their last 12 matches to close out the year. They really had a very bad drop in form there. And then in 2019, how can we forget, Parramatta beat Brisbane 58-0 at the Western Sydney Stadium. It broke all records. It is now currently the biggest ever win in a finals game by any team since 1908. It overtook the score that Newtown beat St George by in 1944. So Parramatta just were on fire that day and ran riot, 58 now over Brisbane. Looking at some players that have played for both clubs in the past, to be fair, there hasn't been a lot since 1988 when Brisbane come in. Brett Plowman, Casey Maguire, PJ Marsh, Stuart Kelly, Carl Webb, Corey Norman, Reece Robinson, Josh Hoffman and Tom Opacek. They're the only ones at this stage that I could find on Wikipedia that had played for both Brisbane and Parramatta. So not too many players have crossed the bridge to go to the other side. Looking at this fixture though, would I say it's a rivalry? Absolutely not. Yes, Brisbane and Parramatta have played in some big matches in the past. Especially, as I mentioned, the 58 now in 2019, the qualifying final. They've had some big finals games. They've also had some big regular season matches that have been replayed, but definitely not a rival. I know plenty of Brisbane fans. None of them have ever really had a bad word to say about Parramatta. I've obviously been a Parramatta supporter. I know tons of them, and none of them have ever really said out about Brisbane either. It's of course, a big match between the two sides who, in certain parts of their history, have been very successful. Would I see that the two sides are worldwide renowned and people know who they are and people know them all around the world? I'd have to disagree with Jess Yates on that one as well. If you didn't know already, I live in England and I've worn my Parramatta merchandise out in public sometimes, and I have got a couple of comments, but nobody's ever gone, oh, nice Parramatta kit or nice hat. Nobody has a clue who Parramatta are, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't know who Brisbane are either, not unless they follow the Super League out like that. So, yes, it's a fixture that both sides want to win, obviously, but would I say it's a rivalry? No, it's just another match in the NRL. Once again, I've mentioned it in the past, the NRL, they had real rivals. They had some big rivalries there, and they chose to kill them clubs off and merge all the clubs together. So now the media and fans alike are scrambling to find new rivalries, which are not rivalries. So anyways, everyone, that concludes my video on this topic tonight. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you liked it. If you have any other suggestions for rivalries out there, which Fox League or the Daily Telegraph toss up and see these two sides are rivals and they hate each other, and you want me to do a video on it and debunk it, then let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, I did the View from the North podcast with Just Rugby League last night, and we had a special guest Adam on there. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and do so. It goes for over an hour, but it's got a couple of good stories in there about how Adam became a rugby league fan. So thanks once again everyone for watching the channel, and I'll catch you all later in the next one. Tally bye for now.